Hello, welcome to Axiom Flux, Season 5. Brand new season we're launching tonight on this Remembrance Sunday. It's Episode 1 and the title for tonight's talk is Child Stealing by the State. We've got several guests with us tonight. Each have got their own experiences and stories to tell you. But first, run through the panel. We're joined by the usual gang. It's Geoff. Hey up, Geoff.
Hi, Paul. How's it going?
Not too bad, Geoff. Thanks for joining us tonight. And we've got Marty. Hey, Marty. Can you hear us? You alright? And Joust, I do believe Joust is on. Although he is grey, so he may not.
Yeah, sorry, dude. I was just checking as well.
Alright, mate, no worries. And Paul, we've got Paul with us as well. Hi, Paul.
Hi, guys. Wrapped up and ready to go.
Okay, so I'm going to introduce the guests, or rather let the guests introduce themselves. We'll start with Brian. Hey there, Brian.
Yes, I am indeed. I'm Brian Clare. I was brought up in Clare in Sunderland in the northeast of England for a number of years, and I've openly campaigned to try and do some justice for the children who have not only been legally kidnapped by social services, but indeed sexually abused.
Good stuff. Well, it's brilliant to have you with us. Short notice as well, so thank you for joining us tonight. So the next one we've got is Katie. Hi, Katie. Can you hear us all right?
Yeah, I can hear you. I am Katie. Basically, my story goes off. My kids were targeted by social services and created lies to steal them, kidnap my son, and put my daughter up for adoption.
Okay, well, we're going to get into that tonight, as well as Brian's story. And the last guest that we do have is Leon. Hi, Leon. Can you hear us?
Hi there. Yeah, I can hear you fine. Yeah, my name's Leon. My son was kidnapped by the Southampton Social Services. Yeah, just a complete nightmare. I've been publicising it on the internet. I've been silenced, and the same story repeating thousands of times all over the world. So yes.
Okay. It's a common story these days. Well, for myself it is anyway. So that just leaves myself to introduce me, which is PJ. It's been a while. We started season 5 tonight, so we hope that you can join us on a Sunday. We have changed the time, it's 7 PM UK time, so do try to remember that for future weeks. So what I'm going to do tonight, because I've been in such a rush trying to get home and get things set up so I don't let any of you guys down, is I'm going to let it be an open discussion. So if you want to chat amongst yourselves, in the order that I introduced, just starting from Brian, just tell us a brief story and we can all take it from there. There's no scripts on this show, as most of the viewers and listeners know, so I don't really have a plan or anything put in place, rather than free speech, and that's all we need really. So there you go. So Brian, if you want to start us off, 30 years,
I would say. I was taken into care in 1977. The reason I was taken into care, which I later found out in later years, I was problem child, expressing behavioural problems. But before I went into care, I was hit by a fire engine, developed epilepsy. Then I went into care in 77. Originally, it was for them years. Originally, it was for an assessment. But like I said, the social services kidnapped. Whilst in Emsworth House, I was 8-year-old. In an assessment centre. Around about 7 or 8 year olds was in an assessment centre. I'd ran an 8-year-old from the care home back with my mum. Was immediately put back in there. Put in a cell. Seriously, put in a cell. Whilst I was there, I was abused by a social worker. Then I was transferred to a foster home. I couldn't handle it in the foster home, so I was sent back to the original place where the social worker was working. Then I was sent to one of the most notorious homes in the northeast, which was Witherwack House. Now it was a care home, well, so-called social services run home, Now, Witherwack was originally it was called ITU, Individual Treatment Unit. Now, thinking about that, why would they call a children's home Individual Treatment Unit, which meant it was medical to me? So anyway, so what I witnessed there, even though I was raped myself in the previous home, it was also going on in in Witherwack. Yeah. I don't know if you like what the way social workers and that in them homes in the 70s and 80s. It was basically all about abuse. It was all about survival. Yeah. So I left Clare in around about 86, not 85. Went straight to the place of what I witnessed. Obviously, in them days, it was like, oh, basically go and do one. Yeah. So I decided to do something about it. So it took us like 5 years to get everybody together who'd been into Witherwack originally, which led to a police investigation called Operation Rose. Yeah, Operation Rose, as far as I'm aware, was originally something like a 2-3 year investigation. Yeah, come up with loads of evidence, including a former director of Newcastle Social Services called Brian Roycroft. Yeah, Brian Roycroft was the only ever social services director to be knighted by the Margaret Thatcher government, incidentally. Yeah. Anyway, back to my story. So I got everybody together. So it led to the police investigation. Yeah. All the evidence and everything was submitted, went to court. Wasn't that the evidence wasn't true, it was the fact that they got off on something to do with abusive process. Yeah, which ultimately I'd gone to the papers, tried all the cases, yeah, to try and get everybody together. Yeah, what the judge said, this was part of the reason why the case broke down. Yeah, so I felt ultimately guilty for that by going to the papers. But what else? I mean, I never said anything about my story or anything. I just said that I'm trying to get in contact with care leavers from this home. Yeah. So after the trial, which I was very, very angry, because once again, children what's been through the care system, there's no such thing as justice. I mean, the only justice that I ever wanted was them to get behind bars for what they've done. You know, they committed crimes on children. In fact, I've always said sexual abuse is not, it's not just about, it's the way they class it. Sexual abuse is torture. It is. It's absolute torture. So what I'd done is after I'd left after the court case collapsed, I decided to do something more about it. Then a lot of the girls and a lot of the lads were getting together and talking. So I had no way of getting like say if the lasses wanted to talk about what had happened to them, they couldn't out the way it is, they couldn't talk to a male, you know. So I'd get in touch with somebody called Kate Laws, helped us a lot. Then I went down to when Sydney Cook was getting released, you know, Jason Swift. Yeah, met a lot of people there, and then it just developed from there. Yeah, and I mean, up until about 2 years ago, I wasn't involved with any of this. I decided to put it to rest. Yeah, unfortunately, I decided to put it to rest. And when I say unfortunately, because I'd had unfinished business, you know. Anyway, there was a knock at my friend's house, and that was where my mum used to live. It was like, it was local canvassing. Would you like to vote, to me, mate, would you like to vote Labour? Steve said, and I shouted, well, I wouldn't vote New Labour if I was paid to, besides the Labour leaders of CUNT. Yeah, so I went to the door. You know who it was? The Sunderland Council leader. So really, he got us back into all this. So what I've learned with Operation Rose, as many of the operations, yeah, the frontline police were fine, you know, kind of decent lads, you know. But the fact is, when the information was getting put through the Ponteland police station, there was from what I've been told, there was a separate force looking at the information and passing and saying certain information was taken out. Yeah, and I was also told with Operation Rose, that it involved all Sunderland children's homes. It wasn't until after the trial I was told it didn't involve any of the other children's homes. So the police let me down, because any investigation can't be just about one children's home, you know, because obviously they're interconnected by the staff moving to and fro, you know. So like I say, I'd done a little. I was like sort of involved with the foster and adoption groups a few years ago. I'm trying to think of the MP who I had a big battle with in Birmingham MP anyway. Yeah, because in one of these meetings I'd actually approached him, was presenting him with two caseloads of files to do with child abuse, and he totally ignored us, you know. And I thought, well, he's doing a speech here, so I'll wait to see him after the speech, and he done the same again. Yeah, and this person was to do with foster and adoption in Birmingham, quite well known. I forget his name. Yeah, and that's one that I wouldn't trust. So what I've done is I looked into that, met a lot of very damn good people, you know. But then I thought, well, I can't get involved with the foster and adoption side really because of what I've been through, and I didn't want to influence anybody, you know. So what I decided to do is look more into the North East Children's Homes. I travelled to Wales for the Waterhouse inquiry. There's also a different part of my story which is to come out very soon. Anyway, that's what I spoke to the Truth Project in Liverpool. With the ISCA inquiry. Yeah, I'd actually been down there last week. It was interesting. I'd never seen an inquiry like that in my life, but that's down to the work of like Mickey Summers, Mandy Copeland, and people like that. I also went up to Scotland, done a little bit of research up to Scotland, spoke up there. It's a difference because Scotland is Masonic in your face, you know. I know a lot of people think I might be on cloud cuckoo land, but like I said, just check us out, you know. I mean, it's your decision if you like what I say, or if you don't. I won't hold that to anybody, you know, because ultimately, especially in the height of the children, you know, we've got to think. I mean, I'm not telling yourselves on here because obviously you know. But just the general public, we've got to think, what is this? I mean, society's bad now, yeah? What is society going to be like towards the children 20, 30 years down the line? Our families' children, you know? What society, why a 40-year-old bloke can walk down the street with an 8-year-old, kiss them and do what they do? You know? I firmly believe that the government's got an epidemic on their hands. I mean, paedophilia in social services, paedophilia in the health system. You know, years ago they hid all this. It was never in the news. It's in the news every day because it's an epidemic. And until the people, not yourselves again, but until the general public actually do something, the only time they'll do something is when it's their children. View it now. Yeah, children are not children. To them, children are a commodity, more money in their pocket. And I'm sorry if there's any social workers listening. There is good and bad, but that's my opinion.
Don't apologise for social workers. At the end of the day, they know exactly what they're doing. Anyone with a conscience knows what they're doing.
Just interrupt just slightly. I had a technical difficulty there, so we've just been offline for 2 minutes, so we are streaming now. Do apologise to viewers, and for whatever you've just said over the past 2 minutes hasn't been streamed, but we're all back and going now.
Right. Kate, I seem to recognise your voice.
What do you mean you recognise my voice?
Do I know your story? Have we spoken in the past?
I'm Katie-Jayne Swallow.
Yeah, we have. We've spoken in the past.
All right, hi.
Hi. Yeah, I've been noticing a lot of your posts on the Facebook lately. Personally, you're doing a brilliant job.
Well, I'm just doing what's right. At the end of the day, it's fighting for what's right. That's all we're doing. I'm not taking no credit for none of it. I can't take credit for none of it, because if it weren't for the people already doing it, I wouldn't have started.
Well, in my opinion, you're doing you and the rest of you are doing a damn good job.
I think there's
Thank
definitely
you.
But obviously, Kate, you'll know David Jenkins.
David, sorry,
Jenkins.
I might do. I'm really bad with names, though.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons why I was involved with the foster and adoption side, because David was up in Wales, you know what I mean. So
Okay.
Yeah, so I followed your work for a while. Well done.
Thank you. I do have a question for you, though, in regards to your experience. Do you remember much about your parents?
Oh yeah. Like I said, the thing is, after I'd left Clare, you know where I was put.
No, but what I mean is, do you remember them from your own memories, or what you've been told from them after you were removed?
I do remember my mum, obviously, because she was coming to visit the home. But with us having the car accident, I don't remember anything from the age of 6. Before the age of 6.
Like, because that's what I'm fearing, because I've had my kids at home for a period of time. I've had my son at home till he was 3, and my daughter till she was 7 months old. But when they were at home with me and how we were as a family is completely different to in a public setting where we're being watched and criticised for being a mum and wanting to love our kids.
Well,
that's the reason why I was asking, because I don't want my kids to grow up thinking that, I only remember that side of my mum where she wouldn't give me anything or wouldn't take me here and take me outside.
In them days, the social workers actually with the work would actually turn around and say, "Oh, your parents don't love you. You're here now." Sadistic.
It's still like that now.
Yeah, it is in Sunderland, definitely.
If not, I think because of the publicity of it, it's perhaps gotten worse in nowadays, because it's gone from a period where, people did it behind closed doors. We only know about that because few people got caught. And then a period of silence, and then all of a sudden, you've got Jimmy Savile, and you've got other celebrities, and then you've got serial killers, and everything all of a sudden randomly popping out of nowhere as if they've just popped up out of the blue. I mean, in the olden days, there were the odd few.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying with the government. They can't do nothing else, because the one thing is now to what it was in the 80s. A lot more people are speaking out. A lot more people, even though, a lot genuine people, what know properly, like yourselves, who's had involvement with social services. Yeah. We know the truth. We know the truth. But what, how can I put it without flipping people out? I never used to think that there was such a thing as behavioural modification. Yeah, I know it sounds strange, but I never used to believe that, right? But gradually, as I've heard more and more stories, but what I've also looked into is the training of social services now to what it was then. What they're doing is they're taking a lot of the old school social services out and bringing the younger generation in. Yeah, but they're trained in a different way. To me, the whole idea of social services, is influence the child, and put as much mental health pressure on them as you can, and then they've got control over your child. Well, that's what I'm saying.
Can I just interject briefly before we carry on? PJ, it'd be all right if I shared an article, because the thing is, this is starting to go mainstream, all this stuff. And there's an article. Is that all right, PJ, if I just share an article, screen share? You might find this interesting if I get it up now for you all to see.
Well, he said there were no rules.
Can you see this, guys?
Give it a try, Geoff.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
Right. Well, it's an article in the Daily Mail. And
You have to move it slowly though, because it moves that fast.
Yeah. Well, I'll this is dated the 10th of November 2018. This article, and it's in the Daily Fail, as I like to call it. But fair play to them for getting this information out. So it's starting to go mainstream, which is good news. The sad thing is, this should have happened years ago by mainstream media, and it's taken them so long to catch up because this has been going on. This is a travesty of justice. It's been going on for absolutely years.
I can't see the article.
Can you see the article, PJ?
No article showing on mine, Geoff.
Well, I can read it out to you anyway. Wherever you can see it. It says, treated like cattle, vulnerable children are being auctioned online by councils inviting private firms to bid for up to £7,000 a week for their care. New report found councils offering contracts for vulnerable children online. Details about age, previous abuse history and gang involvement included in ads. Children in private care can cost over £7,000, while council-run care is cheaper. Local authorities have blamed lack of money and funds for their shortcomings. Children in care are being treated like cattle as councils have invited companies to compete in online bidding wars for contracts worth up to £7,000 a week. A new report found some councils in England and Wales are putting personal details of vulnerable children in adverts online, including if they were sexually abused or involved in gangs, while inviting bids from private firms for their care. Children's care homes are under pressure as private companies are taking over and charging councils more than £7,000 a week, more than £360,000 a year per child for residential placement. And then it goes on to say, local authorities typically source placements for children in their care through supply agreements with privately run providers, but an increasing number of cases require special treatment. A lack of supply bids has led to councils using an online bidding process in order to get the highest bidder. According to The Guardian, private companies can often dictate prices due to the lack of alternative. Figures from Manchester City Council reveal the weekly cost of a child in their care costs an average of £3,942, while private providers cost as much as £6,724 in 2018. Knowsley Council in Merseyside published at least 5 adverts this year, which included personal details such as date of birth, family history and information about the sexual abuse they had suffered. The adverts have since been removed. There's a little bit more of the article. It says in another advert, a 14-year-old boy's historical sexual behaviour and inappropriate sexual behaviour were listed, while another advert for a 15-year-old included his involvement with gangs and difficult family relationships. Knowsley Council admitted the level of personal information was unnecessarily detailed and has since removed the adverts. They added that the adverts had become part of standard practice. Nadim Zahawi, Minister for Children and Families, said it was completely unacceptable for authorities to promote or seem to seemingly auction children in care. Antoinette Bramble, chair of the Local Government Association's Children and Young People Board, said, with councils facing a £3 billion funding gap for children's services by 2025, we feel it is immoral that significant private profit can be made on the back of vulnerable children and young people. And that's the end of that article. I just thought I'd read that out. It shows you what a state of...
I'm sorry for my outburst before, but Manchester's why my kids got took. My kid got took in 2018. We're still in 2018, and they were trying to adopt her on the 19th of December. They've not even had a 5-month yet.
Oh, right. Blimey.
This is absolutely disgusting, and I've got an article also. So very pertinent at this stage, I believe, and it's an article from Fox News. I will try sharing it. No, I don't know.
say what social services do. They target the children before they take you. A lot of this happened in the 70s and 80s.
No.
Yeah. But this article actually is how it is seeking into the mainstream now for people to start realising what is going on. And this is Fox 26, a Houston news station, reports judge orders largest sanctions ever against CPS, which is Child Protection Services, for lying to remove kids. And Houston Fox 26, this is by far the largest sanction I've ever been a part of or ever heard of being imposed against CPS, said attorney Dennis Slate. Family law judge Mike Schneider says he would have made Child Protective Services pay even more, but didn't want to burden taxpayers. By the way, this is a couple of days ago, this article came out on the 8th. The judge found that Child Protection Services caseworker Levi Jones and his superior Nisha Edwards lied in order to take Michael and Melissa Boyd's 2-year-old daughter and 5-month-old son away from them. And the fact that the Child Protection Services still has those 2 people employed is disgusting. It's disgusting, said attorney Stephen Prophet. I think people would be really concerned if they actually sat here and listened to all of these days' worth of Child Protection Services covering up the lies they told, Slate said. Now, there's a lot more to this article, but it is seeping out into the mainstream. But this comes back to the training and the people they're picking to take place of the older social workers, and that they're having to take these what is known as psychometric tests. In other words, the psychometric test works out that who they should employ that's going to follow orders, and who is more than likely going to be paedophilic in nature, etc., etc. So that's my little input on this part. But I thought it was permanent, but a judge has actually awarded the largest sanctions ever against the child. But that's in America. But here in England, they are still doing their level best to cover up and to deny and to demonise the actual survivors and victims themselves.
Yep, totally agree.
Yeah, totally disgraceful what's going on by the state. And of course, they're talking about psychometric tests. I think what we should do for all our publicly funded officials and people that work in these organisations, maybe we should give them sort of testing, like, you know, to make sure that they're, you know, of a good moral standing before they're allowed to do what they do.
Mm-hmm.
But this runs through all our services, the police forces, the NHS, the child services, protection services, etc., etc. They are all being put through these diversity training courses that are linked very heavily with common purpose.
I mean, there's 2 issues with not just social services, but the government as well, but mainly social services. You've got the money side of it, and then you've got the education side of it. I've just passed today.
Sorry,
my qualification to be a social worker. I've been doing it for 3 days online. I passed it. I'm now officially a child welfare worker. Well, I've got the education now to say I'm a child welfare worker. It's that easy. It's stupid, and it doesn't go through half of the stuff, and it encourages bullying of families and going behind the family's back and ignoring the children and removing the children.
Yes.
And that's a stupid exam that you can get to become a welfare worker. After you become a welfare worker, you go out to visit a couple of families, you're a social worker.
Yeah, they say it's education, but I believe it's indoctrination. It's indoctrinating purposely in these paedophilic methods of mind control and thought control.
Exactly, but the government are literally restricting people from getting the qualifications and the actual knowledge and the actual education that they need to work with families if that's what they want to do, because they're going into someone's house. Who are they to say that just because their family was this way, that another family can't be another? And then the lies on top of it, just because your kids are good looking and, ooh, I can get some money for those kids. Because I've seen a relative of mine.
Blue-eyed.
Sorry?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just thinking out loud. Blonde-haired, blue-eyed children.
Exactly, that's like what mine are, blonde-haired, blue eyes. The majority of them are. They're not all, but the majority of them are blonde-haired, blue eyes.
Mm-hmm.
But my nephew was abused. I'm going to say nephew because it's an easy way of explaining who it all is. But a family friend's nephew, basically. He was being abused. Fair dues, he wasn't being battered black and blue. He was being smacked. He wasn't being tended to. He wasn't being fed properly. He wasn't being properly looked after. And that went all the way up to the age of about 5. His mum's starting to clear herself around now, finally. But back then, social services went in. Oh, there's nothing wrong here. Couldn't walk in the house. There was mould everywhere. There was a path from the front door through the living room, through the kitchen. Her son would be in the living room. She'd be in the kitchen doing whatever she's doing, getting high, whatever. He'd be eating tinned food. The only time he'd get a wash or a proper meal was down round the corner of his grand's. Fair dues, she's pulled herself around and she's done it massively now. But back then, when she needed the help, where were social services to help her? They walked in and said, you don't need help. They could have given her some support or something, and they walked off and left them.
Yeah, that's what happened in my mum's case. I mean, because obviously I was developing these behavioural problems. Mum went to social services. Next thing she knows, I've been kidnapped by social services. Because apparently there wasn't a proper full-on care order on us. But I was kept in care all them years, you know. So, yeah, you're totally right, Katie. Totally right.
I mean, with my nephew, he wasn't blonde-haired, blue-eyed. He was brown-haired, brown-eyed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he wasn't, you know, and he wasn't polite or anything because of the way he brought up on a rough estate. His mum learned that way. I mean, I grew up with her. I know the way she learns. Fair dues, I grew up a different way. She didn't. She's always grown up on council estates. She's always had to grow up on the rough end. So a kid acts like it.
You say social services. Have you noticed the amount of MPs who have had the children took? None.
Oh, no, they won't do.
You know,
as soon as one of them stands up for the right reasons, I bet you then they get taken.
Do you believe it's a class divide?
Yeah, it is a class thing because they seem to go after the poorer strata of the community, but it's now starting to get into the middle classes where middle class people are starting to have their children taken also.
Well, the middle class people that keep their kids taken tend to be people who fight against the government in one way or another.
Because they've got the financial means to do so.
Yeah, but that's why they'll end up getting their kids taken. That's why the middle class will get aimed as well if they stand up to the government.
Hey guys, at this point, can we bring in our other guest, Leonardo? And if he'd Leonardo, are you there? Hello?
Yeah, I was just listening.
Hi, Leonardo. Welcome to Axiom Flux. I was wondering if you'd like to sort of give your version of what's happened to you and how it's affected you. And
yeah, just well, I don't know. For a few years, I was promoting or providing a health product, a controversial health product in the UK. And I endured a 3-year character assassination campaign by the BBC. I used to work in the NHS pharmacy department, and I worked in there for 10 years until I discovered a health product that heals cancer and many diseases, detoxes the body. So I was providing that, and I endured a 3-year character assassination by the BBC. And they... sorry, go on.
Presumably this is what led to social services coming in and attacking you, or what?
Well, I think so. I believe we don't have the proof, but they sent we asked for the NHS labour to come in when my mate was having her we were having a home birth. We asked the NHS to come in and bring a midwife This midwife who came in, she was obviously evil. As soon as she came into the room, she changed the environment. Anyway, oh God, it's so upsetting. But she pulled the umbilical cord after I had cut the cord of the umbilical cord. My son was born healthy, and she pulled the umbilical cord that was hanging from Yolanda, and she began to bleed and nearly died on our floor in our kitchen. She lost nearly over 2 liters of blood. So
that's something that's debatable nowadays. People are talking that apparently they should leave the umbilical cord attached for quite a while until it stops.
Yes, I waited for it to go, the umbilical cord to go white when the blood had. I know what you're referring to, where people have they birth the placenta and it stays on till it dries and all the goodness goes in. But I wait for the blood to carry on to go for the umbilical cord to go white, and then I cut the cord.
Yeah. For the people that don't understand the seriousness of this bit that Leonardo's referring to, 2 liters of blood is just around 4 points, which is half of the body's blood.
So
it's not only the mum, but the baby as well. That because if anything happened to the baby's umbilical cord, because they can tear sometimes on nappies, and that baby needed blood, they'd need that from the placenta and the umbilical cord.
So yes, the umbilical cord was obviously there was hanging from Yolanda, and the placenta, because of this woman wasn't loving or caring. She was stressed, and she wanted to get home for a daughter. Her husband was looking after a daughter. She put this stress onto Yolanda, and that obviously affected her, and I imagine it closed, and the placenta I'm referring to wouldn't birth. It wouldn't come out. And so Yolanda moved to our bed because we were in a water pool. We're having a water birth. Yolanda moved to the bed to birth the placenta. This midwife, she pulled the umbilical cord twice to speed it, because she was so stressed and wanting to get home, to a daughter who was with her husband on his own. And so that was where it just began to get even worse and worse. An ambulance eventually. Well, no, Yolanda wanted to stay away from this woman. So we had a birth doula as well. I'm missing out little bits but we had a birth doula, a friend who we contracted to be our doula as well. She was looking after Santiago while trying to birth the placenta.
Can you explain what a doula is to the people that don't know, please, Leonardo?
Yeah, doula it's a birth. Well, you could call her a birth assistant. She was not the NHS, not part of anything like that. She was our own friend who was teaching us natural birth methods as well. We contracted her to help us and be there for us, but she wasn't there to give medical advice or anything like that. Like help with breathing and these types of things, breathing exercises. So she witnessed all of this. She witnessed everything that was happening. So, but Yolanda, she wanted to get away from this woman. So Yolanda and I went into the bathroom. We shut the door. We turned the light off, and I talked quietly to her, relax her, tried to just relax and quietly to birth the placenta. And all the time this is happening, she's bleeding in this side. So we go into the kitchen, which is even more darker, and we turned the lights and pulled the blinds down. Then she became very, very ill, and she was on the floor. And then we got there. Somebody called an ambulance. The first ambulance that turned up, they weren't qualified to do anything, so we had to wait for another set of ambulance drivers. And they came and they put a drip, tried to get a drip in her, and they couldn't get a drip in her for whatever reason. And so then we had to go to the hospital. This midwife didn't want to go because she was worried about getting a parking ticket on her car.
And was it not her job to be with Alandi while she went to hospital?
Yes, she was commanded by the ambulance driver because she wanted to go home. She wanted to leave. The ambulance driver commanded her to come with Yolanda in the ambulance. And she wouldn't let me. We had no car. And God, it's worse. This woman wouldn't let me in her car for whatever reason. She wouldn't let me in her car. But then the paramedic commanded her to go in the ambulance with Mum. And because I couldn't sit in the ambulance because of the seating, I wasn't safe with the blue lights on. The other paramedic drove her car with me and the doula and Santiago in the car to the hospital, and she had the placenta removed in theatre. Oh,
purely unprofessional. Purely unprofessional.
Sounds a bit chaotic at the very least there. So anyway, how did?
We went to the hospital. Yeah. And Santiago wasn't admitted as a patient. He was just in my arms. We were waiting for Yolanda. Now, I made some mistakes. I'm sat in the waiting room with Santiago and with the doula. We're waiting for Yolanda to come out the theatre. Santiago is sleeping in my arms. Now, a nurse is coming in and she's asking for the name. She wanted his name. And this woman nothing was happening. Nothing, everything seemed right. She wanted his name. She was harassing us for his name, or harassing me for the name to give what is his name? What is his name? We didn't have a name because I wanted a surprise. Yolanda knew, obviously. I wanted a surprise. So I didn't know that we were having a boy. So when he came, it was a surprise, So we didn't have a name for him. And this sister, a nurse, kept harassing us for a name.
It sounds like to me that what they were trying to do was to try and register him sort of on the crafty so that they could maybe that's what they used in order to take your child away or something like that, is it?
Yeah, well, I've learnt in hospitals, they get money for each day a child is in that hospital and for the registration of a child in the hospital.
Ah, I see.
It's the Princess Anne Hospital, Southampton. It's a foundling hospital. If you look up the history of foundling hospitals.
You've just put a lot of pieces in a lot of places with what you've said.
Yes.
Because they've asked me that with both my kids when they were born. My son in Germany and my daughter over here, because their names were on their tags. And I was wondering why a couple of weeks ago someone was saying that the hospital registered the baby. And you saying that there, you've just fucking made a lot of things click into a lot of right places. Thank you for that.
Yes, it's for money to be made.
Just for our viewers, can I sort of point out that I don't think they can legally or lawfully take a child into care if it's not registered.
Yes, well, let me speak about that.
However, child is a bit of a double-barreled thing because if they're, of course, not registered, technically they don't exist. So they can remove a child that way as well. And, of course, there'd be no recourse because they could turn around then and possibly say, well, we don't know what you're talking about. There's no such being in existence.
So they've got the law rigged as a catch-22.
Yes, we didn't register our son. All my friends are telling me around me before he was born, you don't need to register. Don't register your son. I had all that kind of mindset as well, But I didn't. We are referring to the birth certificate, aren't we? When we say registered, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're referring to the birth certificate. Yeah. That's what we're talking about. But obviously, when you get in a hospital, there's an NHS numbers being created on all these types of things. But it's a myth. I believe it's a myth they took my son. I never registered him. We never registered him. Well, we got when it came to the court hearings, the judge said, "Are you going to register your son in court?" It got to that point. What happened since is the social worker informed on him. My son has a birth certificate. without my name on it and without Mum's full name on it. Our story gets worse. I'm sorry if I don't come across cohesive. It's very upsetting for me. But
we understand, Leonardo. You know, just
you're doing well, Leonardo. Continue.
Thank you very much.
So tell it the best way you can. It's okay. We're all sort of understanding here, and we know that there's.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone. So Yolanda comes out of theatre. She's got one of those things between her legs for going to the toilet. Sorry if my language is a bit.
A catheter.
A catheter, something like that, and it's uncomfortable. Yolanda wants to get home. She just wants to get home. She's recovered from the theatre, having the placenta removed. She wants to get home and be with her baby. So she tells the doctor, I want to go home, and the doctor says, yes, you can go home. And we went home the next evening. So we go home, and
did you have Santiago with you?
Yeah, Santiago. He wasn't. Remember, he wasn't an inpatient. It was just Yolanda went in to have the placenta removed.
Yeah. Okay.
So we left, and we came home. And my girlfriend, my mate, is Portuguese. Yeah. So the customs and how things work are different in Portugal.
Your partner's name is Yolanda, yeah? Yolanda,
yes.
Yeah.
If you want to have a look at our website, it's ourbabywassnatched.com. So we came home, and people come and knocking our door unannounced. People were knocking our door. This is my first baby. People were knocking our door, and in Portugal, people make an appointment and then they turn up and arrive. In England, now we've learned is midwives will just turn up at your house whenever they want.
And remember that Yolanda's still recovering from losing 4 pints of blood.
Thank you for that. Thank you. So yes, Yolanda's exhausted from the whole experience, obviously, and she just wants to be with her son.
Can I just interrupt quickly?
Please.
Yeah, go for it, Katie.
You said about midwives coming around constantly, and she just had surgery and she just wanted to relax. Midwives are trained in aftercare after birth, so they come round extra at first to make sure that not just the baby's all right, but the mum's recovering and healing okay as well.
Yeah, so this midwife came into our home and she did evil. This woman was not natural. She gave a false name, and I'd forgotten this. She's given a false name. She is not on the midwifery registry, okay? She is completely removed from any of the hearings. There is no mention of her in any of the court papers anywhere. She has completely disappeared from everything. She gave a false name. So we can, I believe maybe they sent someone in to do exactly what she did. And she was evil. Her energy was not love. She had no sparkle in her eyes, no love in her eyes. She was there to do evil. This woman was not natural. She just wanted to get home because she was stressed. This was just a stress doing this, You know what I mean? And this energy went into Mum. We created this beautiful, serene space for Yolanda to birth the baby in a water pool. That we all planned everything, And this woman came into our home, an evil woman, a monster, and did this.
Sounds like you suffered, a very traumatic experience there, Leonardo. You have our sympathies. I'm sure if there's a few of us were there with you now, we'd give you a big hug because we.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Know this
Thank you
for you. Telling this story.
So this lady came in purporting to be a midwife and has sucked all the good energy from the area. What did she continue to do here, Leonardo?
Well, Yolanda went to the hospital. They took her to the hospital. This midwife did go with her, and then I went into a waiting room, and that's the last time I saw her. the midwife. That's the last time we ever saw her, the midwife. She went in the ambulance with Yolanda, and after that she completely disappeared. And then she completely disappeared from any of the paperwork, never mentioned ever again since. She's not on the midwifery registry.
Was this made aware to the judges?
Well, we believe that she probably contacted the social workers to distract the attention away from her criminality, her negligence or crime. So I believe that she did this. She contact the social services, and that created a big distraction away from her. Now, then we got consumed by the whole experience of family court. It's nothing you've ever. It's truly horrific and horrifying what then suddenly happens. So it's completely all-consuming to your cycle, your whole being, your mental capacity, your mind, your emotions, everything is completely taken over. So
this is the whole apparatus of the government, remember, here against Leonardo and Orlando.
Yes, this is the state. This is the government. State sanctions kidnapping. That's what they're doing. And every agency, the police, the social service, they're all the same. The courts, they're all in this.
This is not paranoia on Leonardo's side, because I have personal experience from my second cousin that had his baby stolen within an hour of his wife giving birth, before she even had a chance to suckle the baby to the breast.
Well,
and they were kicked out of the hospital at the same time. This was after they ran away to Southern Ireland, hoping that they could get some kind of help there.
You wait till I tell you the story of the doctor at the hospital. The midwife, some people arriving at our door. Our prenatal, I think it's called prenatal, the midwife that you'd go and visit every week or every 2 weeks. I think it's called prenatal midwife. She came to our house. Yolanda, we turned her away, basically. My mistake. I should have I listened. Yolanda said, "I'm exhausted. It's unannounced. I didn't know she was coming. This type of thing. Can you just say come back later?" So the prenatal midwife went away, and we had some communication, and we arranged for her to come on a certain day, and that was agreed. And we have the text messages and the confirmation of that with the midwives. With the midwife, this prenatal midwife, to come and see us.
Can I just, Leonardo, is it prenatal? That's before the child is born.
Antenatally means.
And thank you.
I think you got prenatal and postnatal, aren't you, or something?
Yeah, it's postnatal and antenatal. Postnatal and antenatal are just different forms. It's more antenatal care that deal with after pregnancy.
So the midwife before.
Antenatals after the pregnancy, yeah?
Yeah.
After giving birth. Antenatals after you're giving birth and prenatals before.
Yeah.
Ah, right, okay. Sorry, I just wanted to clarify that. Carry on, Leonardo.
So we had arranged an appointment with her for her to come and see us, and we thought everything was fine. She came around and we were all fine. We carry on. This was the 3rd of. My son was born on the 1st of February. This is around the 3rd of February.
Was this 87 or sorry?
2016.
2016.
Then we start to receive, and after this point, we received more people coming to our door. We even had a woman screaming, "I'm a doctor, let me in! I'm a doctor, let me in!" The way that she was speaking to us was, we get this whole experience where our senses are heightened. Can anyone understand that? We're heightened.
Yeah.
So,
well, definitely with what you're going through, I can imagine you're heightened.
Yeah, so we're I don't know how to explain it, but we're heightened up a bit. And this doctor starts shouting at us to open the door. We're gentle, kind people. We're nice people. We're loving people. This woman was not. It wasn't appropriate. It wasn't. She was screaming, "Open the door! Open the door!" So we didn't. We turned her away. Obviously, we're making these things. We're obviously triggering off systems. We realised we made mistakes, but things were not happening. A doctor shouting at us. Well, no, a woman purporting to be a doctor.
It sounds like these are agent provocateurs sent in to trigger off certain systems, so they enact certain systems to follow on from there. Sorry,
yes, no worries. Thank you for helping me along. You know, this is all happening on an intercom, by the way. I'm forgetting we're communicating through an intercom. We lived in a flat. So the the conversation ends and she goes away. The next minute we have a police officer come to our door. And so now you know, this is getting a bit, what's going on now? We just want to get for our baby. So we have a police officer knocking our door. I get a bit anxious, so I call my friend, and we're speaking to him, and he's speaking, and he's saying, you don't have to open the door to a police officer. So I say this to the police officer. We've done nothing wrong. We don't have to open the door. Everything's fine in here. He says, I need to see your baby. So he says, oh, I'll come round and look through the window. So the police officer comes round and looks through the window, looks at us and says, oh, everything looks fine. Everything's fine. He looks around. He's put at ease. And he said, I'll contact the people, whoever it is. So that happened. So, okay, fine. Then we receive a text from the Princess Anne Hospital. You must come to the hospital by 4 p.m. So now we're receiving a threatening text from people. So now we know something else is going on here. This is not our prenatal midwife. This is cut outside. This is not our midwife, the one before. This is another aspect, another agency, another whatever it is, are now involved. This is the hospital. So they want us there by 4. So we're starting to get, we're now getting, this is something's going on. So we contact the doula. We say, can we come to your house for support? Because she's very professional.
Sounds like a bit of a sort of panicky situation there, Leonardo. You know?
Yes.
Because, this is all new to you. You're going through a sort of a bit of an emotional roller coaster of what the sound of it.
Yeah, so we book a taxi and we leave in the evening. It's dark. I can't remember the times, but we left. It was maybe 8 o'clock. As we were leaving, Yolanda instinctively said, "Could you just tell the driver to lock the doors of the car?" She just said it out, instinctively, just said, "Shut the doors." And so we come out of where we lived, and as we came out of the road, there was 2 police officers walking up the road, and they looked at us, and we looked at them, and then we just carried on with the taxi, and we went to our friends.
You've been set up fair and square, mate.
Yes, I know now.
Yeah, this sounds a definite setup, like the woman that sent round screaming through the intercom. That was to trigger off actions to set off their systems, their end, so they can continue with what they can do, well, so-called legally.
Yes. So we go to our friends. Anyway, my friend, our doula, now we're like, we want to put these people at ease. We want everyone to know everything's fine. Our baby's fine. There's no problems. So we're calling her. The doula makes contact with the hospital, and some discussions go on, and they go back and forth. We call her a charity call. AMA, I can't remember what the acronym, what it means. It's Midwifery Advice Charity or something like that. I can't remember right now. So anyway, some conversations go on and back and forth between these different people. And then there's a knock at the door. And the doula's husband, he goes downstairs. And as far as I know now, that they threatened him. He said, if you don't let us in, we're going to do you for what's it called when someone's helping somebody else in a crime?
Aiding and abetting.
Is it obstruction?
Aiding and abetting.
Aiding and abetting, yeah, or something. He's helping. Yes, we're going to arrest you if you don't let us in. So they came in. There was two police officers came in, and one stood outside, is what I've learned, and 2 social workers. They come into the room. We're upstairs. They come into the room, and the very first thing, this person, these creatures, so that's where they live in the pits. This creature gave us a piece of paper, and it was a contract of expectations. Very first thing they said and gave was this piece of paper. We're like, we don't sign no contract. We're not signing anything. What do you mean? We're not signing any contract. Am I crazy here? I'm talking to you guys.
No, you're in every right not to sign any contract.
Why would you?
The joy of anything.
We've never met these people. Who the hell are they? Now that these people walk in with two policemen, 2 big tall policemen, and the first thing they want us to do is sign a contract.
Yeah, that sounded a little bit suspicious, to say the least, because whenever you're signing a contract, it has to be a two-way thing, and both parties must know fully, they must both have full disclosure of the facts of what the contract is about and why there needs to be a contract, and nobody's under any obligation to sign any contract ever. It has to be fully.
I was threatening to sign in one.
Oh yeah.
You were threatened to sign one, Katie, did you say?
Yeah, they got me trapped, held my son in a different room against me. I'd got a police officer there in a hospital. They kept us there all day. My son hadn't eaten all day. They had him in a hospital and knew they set off me panic attacks, especially when there's fucking coppers there and fucking people just randomly sat there. They said they noted down the bond I had with my son and that nothing was wrong and that he went to me and supported me and I looked after him and kept him safe. Even because he was in there all day, he got bored.
And did did you sign it? Did they force you to sign it?
Yeah, they got a police officer there and everything, and told me if I didn't sign it, so we could go away for the weekend for a couple of hours, a couple of nights, then this police officer was going to arrest me in front of my son and drag me kicking and screaming through the hospital and hold me over the entire weekend because it was a Friday night. It was about 9:30 at Friday night.
Argumentum ad baculum.
That's coercion.
They wouldn't let me see they wouldn't let me seek any legal advice. They wouldn't let my partner come with me. They wouldn't let anything happen. Because of the stress they put me under, I had a miscarriage that fucking night.
Oh, right, for our listeners again, what was the name of that contract again, please?
Section
called a contract of expectations.
Well, it's Section 20 to get you to sign. Take your kid.
Contract of expectations.
Yes. Can I just point out to our viewers that if you ever sign a contract under any form of coercion whatsoever, then when you sign it, put VC in front of your signature or several dots. VC, then a few dots. Then
3 dots.
Yeah.
3 dots, yeah.
And that stands for vicoactis, which means signed under
duress.
If you sign anything under duress, technically that contract is null and void from that onwards. If it's ever brought up in a court of law, that contract would technically be null and void and thrown out of court. So,
the problem is, though, they're trapping parents because they trapped me. I wasn't allowed to go on my phone. I was watched the entire time, and they kept holding my son away from me and making me go out the room and leave him with them.
If this is not evil, what is it?
Anyway, guys, let Leonardo carry on.
We're in the room with the 2 police officers and two social workers, and they want to take our son to hospital. This is what came. My son had a bit of jaundice from breastfeeding. He wasn't sick. He wasn't ill. We're knowledgeable people. We studied everything. You know, we learned. We're not stupid people. So he had a bit of jaundice. We were keeping an eye on it. I looked on the NHS website, checking it, and keep an eye on it anyway. So they wanted us to go to the hospital. And anyway, the social workers and our doula were going back and forth. Phone calls and things were being discussed. It looked like they were going to go away at one point. It was agreed that we would go to somewhere. Something was agreed, and then this social worker, she just suddenly decided, no, that's it, we're going. And so these 2 police officers, I started to question. I said, we don't need to go. He's not sick. There's no in these times. These 2 police officers. I'm a slim guy. I'm not a fighting person. I'm not aggressive. Anyway, these 2 guys, 2 tall policemen, stood over the top of me, intimidating me, trying to force me. And they said, if you don't take your son, we are going to force you to take your son. So, okay, so we got in the social worker's car, and this woman, this creature, trying to be all lovey and friendly with mum. We went to the hospital with our doula as well. Our doula was recording everything. She was keeping a diary, a timeline, everything at this point. So we were in a waiting room in the Princess Anne Hospital, Southampton. And we're in a room, and eventually they come in, and a nurse comes in, and they put Santiago on a bed thing. And there's some question. He's asking questions about Santiago to mum. And he noticed our doula was filming him, recording him. And when he noticed that, that's it. He said, are you recording me? And she said, yes. And he said, you're not allowed to do that. It's illegal, wherever. And so they threw her out, basically. They threw her out of the hospital. Here's our one person of strength who's keeping a record. They knew what they were doing. They got rid of the strong woman, the strong person in amongst this who's keeping a record of everything. They removed her. They knew what they were doing. So she was thrown out of the hospital. So then they do a prick test on his heel, which I believe is to test his blood for enzymes that they now use to regenerate the body. I've come to learn since. So they say, the doctor says he's very, very ill. He's seriously ill. He needs to be admitted. And at one point, oh, I've forgotten something. We contracted a private midwife as well at the hospital to come to the hospital as well. I'm forgetting this. We had our doula and a private midwife, and Yolanda and I. The private midwife went out and outside the room at one point and spoke to the doctor. And this doctor, and I have an affidavit written by the midwife, the private midwife, which states, this doctor said to her, I'm under the orders of the social services. Ooh. So what that means is, it doesn't matter if my son is sick or not, he was going to be admitted. Period.
Oh.
So,
blimey.
My son was taken to neonates. I worked in this hospital as part of the pharmaceutical job. Neonates is where the babies that are premature go. This particular room was the tiniest babies the size of your hand.
Can I just ask Leonardo, who was actually issued this affidavit?
So this affidavit was written afterwards in the attempt to try to win our case and try to get our son back. This is months later.
Was it issued to you, was it?
it was an affidavit that's put in our bundles and was entered into the family court in Portsmouth by the the private midwife.
Right, because an affidavit only becomes a statement of lawful fact if it's not rebutted.
Yeah.
So it has to be somebody has to turn around and say, whoever it is issued to needed to turn around and say, no, I don't accept this for whatever reason, and rebut it.
It was notarized by a solicitor. That went in, but they wouldn't let her into the building. The family courts, I believe, is a separate entity. And what I've come as in this experience, it's a criminal, hidden, separate entity that's doing its own thing. She wasn't allowed into the courtroom. They wouldn't let her in. She was never seen.
Okay. Carry on anyway, Leonardo.
So my son was admitted. They put Santiago in a room with the seriously sick babies, small babies the size of your hand, this type of thing. He was stuck in the middle of a room with seriously ill children. And they put a drip into him, and they filled him up with liquid, and then they put him under a blue light, and his skin was burnt. And they fried him in this room with sick babies, where my son wasn't sick. He didn't need to be there. And that comes from a private midwife and other women who've had babies, who've learnt about I've forgotten the word now, with the yellow skin.
Jaundice.
Jaundice, yes.
Yeah.
So he was put under that. They pumped him up. While this was all happening, Yolanda was put in. She wasn't admitted. She was put in a private room at the other end of the ward. You know, this is where this is sinister now. There's these nurses and doctors. Yolanda's not sleeping. These nurses and doctors and various people coming in her room. This is a private room, every half an hour or so, to check her blood, to give her blood test, blood pressure. What this was doing was keeping her awake. Yeah, it's now becoming a psychological operation to break them up.
Oh yeah, the whole thing about
you've got a window in your room, haven't you? You've got a window in your room. You know, inviting her to jump. You hear that? Jump out the window, commit suicide.
Good God, this is incredible. This is absolutely incredible. I mean, the stuff I'm hearing here. I mean,
horrific.
I mean, that's
so. I forgot something.
Did you say
when me and Yolanda went into the room, we entered the ward, the neonatal ward. The clerical staff, the nurses, anyone who was there when we were entering, they all looked at us with horrible looks, like they'd been told something before we entered. So the clerical staff, the receptionists, people, we looked in offices, and people, anyone who was in there looked at us with dirty looks, looked down at us, looked like we had, like we were criminals, like we had done something. This is, on the way in to the place.
Like somebody had been poisoned.
I was approached by two police officers, one male, one female. The male stood back a little bit. The female stepped forward, put her foot in front of me, and said, "If you try to remove your son from this hospital, we will arrest you."
I mean,
they did this to Yolanda separately at another time as well. They said the same thing to her.
I go back to what you were saying about your Santiago under some sort of light and it burnt his skin.
So I tried to summarize.
I mean,
we're in a room. We're in a room. We're in the private room, Yolanda and I, and there's a knock on the door. We open the door. It's a woman with a big smile on her face, a smirk. She says, "You've got to be in court in 20 minutes." We're like, what's going on? She handed us a bit of paper.
Mm-hmm.
We go into this room. We go back into the room. And we suddenly receive a phone call.
Right.
And it just happened to be a lawyer. Just happened to be in the court. in Portsmouth. I mean, this is Southampton. Portsmouth is around 20-30 minutes away from Southampton, so we could never get there. He conveniently calls us. He just happens to be in the courtroom where our case is being heard.
This is a massive thing.
Can you see what was going on here? It was a trap, trying to get us to contract with the lawyers, trying to get us to instruct lawyers who obviously were part of the scam, the plan, the scheme, the scam, whatever it is. Yeah,
definitely.
So
some sort.
We're in a state. What the heck's going on? We don't. So we may have instructed him. I can't remember. We probably did instruct him, but it was adjourned because that judge of that hearing wanted to see the parents, so they adjourned it and got another judge to come in. And there was a hearing, and they obviously got the order. So what I've come to understand is that us being in the courtroom, us being in the hospital enabled them to have enough time to go to the court and get a court order for his removal.
Good God.
So
that's phenomenal.
He was there maybe the day after the day, or was it the end of the day? Probably the same day. We had a private meeting in a room. They brought our son in the room, and they said to Mum, "Do you want to say goodbye to your son?" Nobody wants to say goodbye to their son. So you learn this, It
appears to me.
She said, "No, I don't want." Obviously she doesn't want to say goodbye to her son, and they just took that and they whisked him away. He wasn't in the room; he was outside the room. Tell a lie. They were so waiting to take him straight away that they were. As soon as she said that, he was whisked off. But so we never got to say goodbye to our son.
This is your child still in intensive care at this moment in time, yeah? In special treatment.
I tried to summarise it quick now.
And they actually took your child.
We were supposed to see him the next day at a contact centre. This is probably a plan. They couldn't do it the next day, so they had a one-day space between seeing our son. We went to a contact centre. We started speaking to other mothers and communicate and ask questions. We met a mother outside on a bus who just left there. We were talking to her, and they found out eventually. So they were trying anything to create a situation. These people, I can't believe what they do. They try to make you upset. They try to do anything to create a reaction, to justify them, because they sit there and they do notes on you. And what I've learned, everyone, is this contact practitioner who was sitting there making notes on us was also a foster carer. And I have the proof by the own Southampton City Council's fostering and adoption video on YouTube. The same man, I shouldn't call him a man, he's not a man. The same person who was a contact practitioner sitting there writing reports is also fostering the children. And we now know fostering is very profitable. So if this man wrote positive notes, positive stuff about the parents, and he would not be able to foster those children, therefore not make any money.
No,
on that video on YouTube, he says, my wife does not have to work anymore, because they discuss payments on the video. the horror of it.
Absolutely incredible tale you've got there, Leonardo.
So we begin to publicize it. We put it on Facebook. We start to tell people.
What I find,
we start to publicize it.
Leonardo,
we start to shine light on the darkness, which is what they are afraid of.
Well, what I find amazing,
we receive an injunction. The only paperwork that looks real. It's got an embossed stamp in the paperwork, not signed. No one signs anything, but there's an embossed stamp in the paperwork. The family court papers, that's completely fraudulent. It's just anyone could make that up themselves and just put an emblem that looks like a court emblem on it. But so this, but it's this injunction came. We received an injunction to silence us. So
was that some sort of gagging?
We just ignore it. We just ignore it. We just carry on doing what we're doing. We're making videos. We've made over 68 videos on YouTube, and we're pumping out content and telling everyone the story and learning things and making and really pushing all this stuff out, publicizing it. And then so then we received papers. The council was applying for us to be put in prison for breach of injunction. So we're not going to be silenced. So I've missed out a part. At this point, we have been stopped from seeing our son permanently for an argument that happened, an incident in contact that they created. So we come to Portugal to stop them from silencing us, and to go to a demonstration that Leonardo had organised. So we went to a demonstration. Now we've been here ever since, and we haven't seen our son since 2016. We've been attending. We attended court hearings. A court hearing. Oh, I've forgotten about the hearings in Portsmouth. I've jumped ahead. Can I go back a second? We went to some hearings at Portsmouth. We had two lawyers, two solicitors, two lawyers separately. I'm sorry, Pete. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm missing out bits. Okay. I'm in a room with my solicitor, and Yolanda's in another room with her solicitor, a lawyer. The lawyer I'm speaking with says to me, your girlfriend has agreed that you are a danger to your son. Moments later, Yolanda comes barging in the room saying, Leon, they're trying to make me agree that you are a danger to your son. And at that point, we then knew that those lawyers were colluding against us.
This is a complete setup.
No lawyers are friends. No lawyers are our friends. They are our enemies of humanity.
You were going to ask the question before. What was the question?
So anyway, I can't remember what happened that day, but anyway, we sacked them soon after. We attended the next hearing, and we're learning stuff about the court. When they say all rise, they're raising the dead, and it's a ritual. It's a ritual. So when I'm there, I didn't raise. I said, I'm fine here. I'm fine sitting here. I didn't stand up. I wasn't going to give them a jurisdiction over me. These evil motherfuckers. I'm sorry. So I didn't stand up. And so I got all these people all around me. You must stand up. You must obey the laws of the courts and all this stuff. You must obey. So then I get a security guard who physically assaulted me, and I was thrown out.
Good grief! No, Yolanda
was in there on her own, but Yolanda is a very strong, powerful woman, and she knew what they were doing. They were trying to trick her and stuff, so she managed to deal with that. But
they used trickery and deceit to gain jurisdiction.
Are you still there, everyone?
Yeah. Can you hear me, Leonardo? Can you hear me okay? Can anybody hear me?
Can you hear Jeffrey, Leonardo?
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
I don't think Leonardo
is everyone still there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Leonardo, try going out and coming back in again, Leo.
I'll refresh as well. Hang on.
Oh, okay. Thank you. God. Refresh. Yes.
Hello, Leonardo. Can you hear me now?
It's just refreshing at the moment, Geoff.
Ah, right. Okay. Yeah.
Did you lose me?
Yes, well, I could hear you, but Geoff couldn't. So Geoff refreshed, then you refreshed. So I think we're okay again now.
Yeah, I could hear Leonardo, but I don't think he could hear me. Can you hear me now?
We
I can hear you all now.
We could all hear you, Leonardo. So I think you've hasn't gone to a miss. Don't worry.
Do you know what I thought? I thought I'd silenced you all with just
no.
The horribleness.
You told a pretty good account of your harrowing story of what you had to go through, Leonardo, and we will, sympathise with you. About
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
I can bring some positive to this. Now, I'm in Portugal, and I cannot speak Portuguese. So Yolanda, in Portugal, this is down to the Yolanda. I just stood by her side to watch this incredible things happen.
See, you probably didn't really realise all the stuff that was going on and what it all meant, did you, at the time?
Well, I'd say half and half. We were understanding as well. We were starting to put things together. Yolanda was coming up with things, creative thinking, about how, what they're doing, and but. Yolanda said, "I'm going to speak to the Prime Minister of Portugal." We went, and minutes later, we went to Lisbon, which is the capital of Portugal. We travelled there for a demonstration with 15 other people. Yolanda said, "I'm going to speak to the Prime Minister." Moments or minutes later, people, I would say earth angels, people with sparkles in their eyes, engineered situations for us, knowingly or unknowingly, to allow this situation to happen. And Yolanda was suddenly speaking to the Prime Minister of Portugal.
Wow.
Just Yolanda and I and him outside the government building of Portugal.
Wow. Incredible.
Yes. And in Portugal, they have a prime minister and a president.
Oh, I see.
And then we were talking to rooms full of MPs. This is the strength, the power of Yolanda. It's just your thoughts. You can create and make things happen. Just think of it and just do it and take action. And so Yolanda commanded rooms of people, MPs and these types. Then we found out that the president, or I said prime minister first, the president was talking across the town, across Lisbon. We had to travel about an hour. She found out a location where he was speaking engagement in a public place. We had our T-shirts. We had printed T-shirts with our son's photo on it, with our Facebook page on it. There's a crowd of people around him, all these women who dote on him, go, "Oh, love him," which is what they do. They bring in people like that to surround him with people that love him, this parasite. Anyway, Yolanda approached him on camera. This is all the public, the cameras are there, and she pulled open her jacket and she had a T-shirt and she managed to speak to him on camera. And so she spoke to him about our son, and that went out to the media, went all over the place. So that happened. After this, Yolanda was contacting Portuguese mothers who've had their children stolen in England. She contacted journalists. She contacted all these people, and she made things happen. We were in a centerfold magazine, a very popular magazine of politicians, and people read this magazine called Visão. And that was a centerfold page. They came and interviewed us and took photos. And so there was many articles on the internet, newspaper articles, and then a documentary, a 3 or 4 part documentary was created. This is not arrogant or egotistic. This is because of Yolanda. She created this. She made it happen.
Wow.
And we had a particular episode on our story, and then the other 2 or 3 were other families too. and their story. And at this point, we worked out this contact practitioner was also a foster carer. So that was published, put out onto the TV as well, that these people, the contact practitioners, are also the fosterers. Incredible. So that went out. So there was. It's like a peaking. We're getting massive attention, over 1 million views, 1.2 million views, and connections on Facebook, shares and likes and these types of things. And then after that, it sort of slowed down as you have to keep going with it. Obviously,
So you've done all this, you and Yolanda done all this despite having this gagging order, and you were just being courageous basically in saying, well, we don't care about whatever they want to do with us, because at the end of the day, we want the truth to be known.
Exactly. Yes, it became a mission. It's a mission. It's bigger than us. This is bigger than us. This is.
Back to you, for you and Yolanda, for your courage and in speaking out. Because it's absolutely harrowing what you've been through. I can tell. Has this had a knock-on effect? You still with Yolanda, and you still together and supporting each other through all this?
Yes, we're still together. It's
excellent.
It's the most.
That's good, because they try splitting partners up.
Yeah.
That's a lot of times the result of this.
Oh yes, they do. That's what I've come to. As we've got this Facebook page, we've had mothers, and I've just learned more. We've come to really see this. They go after the couple. They break the connection. The levels of evil. What they do, they break couples up.
They use the divide and rule tactic.
Divide and conquer. Yes, evil. Truly, this is just truly evil.
Can I just go back over a couple of points, Leonardo? You said about when your child was in hospital, they put him under some sort of blue light, and you said it was burning his skin.
Yes.
Was that some sort of ultraviolet light that they put him under?
I do know of this treatment. They give it for babies with jaundice.
I see. Right, and
it's not. This is I know. I've heard of the blue light, and I've seen it when I worked in the ward. I actually went in this ward as part of my visits working for the pharmacy department. I actually went in there, and I've seen these blue lights, so I do know of it. So it wasn't like I didn't know what it was, but they burnt his skin. His skin was burnt. We could see it was burnt.
It sounds like UVB to put vitamin D into his skin and some pigment or whatever.
It's basically what they use on sunbeds.
Yeah,
sunbeds. Yes, the same as a sunbed. But I know that he didn't need that.
No, but they can overcook him.
Yes, that's why they were puffing him up with fluids so that he didn't dehydrate.
And
that will give them an excuse then to hold him in the hospitals even more so, because then they can say, well, look, he's ill.
So
yes.
In some sort of incubator at the time, with a drip, all this sort of stuff going on.
He was on a cot thing with the blue light over the top of him, covered him up. Yes.
And he had a drip as well.
And he had the drip, the glue. I think it was glucose.
Okay. What seemed strange then was, at that point, you said that they come in and whipped him away. Did they actually take him out of the hospital with all this?
Oh, see, yes, missed out a bit. Yeah, he did recover in their eyes. He recovered, and we have the documents that say he's recovered, and there's a comment where they say he's ready to be discharged.
So he made him
ill, and then said under their guardianship that he's recovered. So therefore, it's making out when he was under your guardianship, you was ill-treating him.
Yes.
Yeah.
They were
very deceitful.
I've endured a 3-year character assassination campaign by the BBC. They lied and lied about me. They said the BBC are masters of deception. I was having a conversation with an undercover reporter, and I was reading from a book, somebody else's book. So what they did on the video is they said that I give bleach to babies, and that's because this product is called it's chlorine. It's not the product. This healing item. It's chlorine dioxide. Now, some of you guys would just probably presume that means chlorine bleach, and it's not. It's there's chlorine and there's chlorine bleach. Anyway, I don't want to go too much into it, but they said that I give bleach to babies, and I put enemas up babies' bums with bleach in, and I'm doing illegal things, implying it's illegal when it's not illegal in the UK. MMS is not illegal in the UK. I have all the documentation. The Environmental Protection Agency's own bureaucracy show it to be safe, and they use it in water treatment plants to purify water. Now, we're 70% water, so, you know, it can clean pathogens. This guy, Jim Humble, discovered it, and if you've got cancer, I would go and look it up. Go on YouTube.
We've already been made aware of MMS and its healing properties and things like that. I've heard about it in the past, many years ago.
Oh yeah, I was working in pharmacy. When I discovered it. I used to take into work, and I'd be at the hatch taking in prescriptions and things, and my bottle of drink would be there just out of view, and I would take it and drink it in work in the pharmacy. And I was also packing vaccines. Now, you know, you guys, you probably know about vaccines. I was working on my own in the fridge with the vaccines, and I took out all the leaflets, and I compiled a list of the adjuvants and the ingredients privately, and I took that list home, and I studied the stuff. What I learned horrified me, and I cried.
It's absolutely incredible, the sort of things they put in these adjuvants, like thimerosal, which contains mercury,
polysorbate 80, and
toxic thing known to mankind.
It's horrified me. I cried at that point, because I had the knowledge of MMS. I'm learning about this alternative, and then I cried. I cried because I knew that my actions were doing stuff. And I now become connected with a lady who has a protocol for autism. There's over 500 children have had their diagnosis removed of autism. Now you need to go and look her up. Her name is Kerry Rivera, and the book is called, let me just get a book because this is crucial information, because autism is very prevalent now, and the book is called Healing the Symptoms Known as Autism, and it's Kerry Rivera.
Does that involve detoxification protocols and things like that?
The children are full of parasites, and that we've seen the photos. They are full of parasites. It's not what you think it is. It's not what you think it is. It's bodies, toxic bodies, full of pathogens, ammonia. These kids are having ammonia tests, and they've got incredibly high amounts of ammonia, massive, and all sorts, just so much. It's just incredible. So look that up, please. I'm glad I could share that. Please look that up.
Great. That's great. Thank you for that information, Leonardo. I know that also, apparently with autism, I believe, I mean, I might be wrong, but it's my understanding that a lot of these things are caused by toxic metals, heavy metals within the body. From
things as well,
from injections and things like that. Sorry, what was that?
Right, yeah, MMR vaccines,
measles, mumps, and rubella. Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was. So I did all that. So
been going off injection.
Yeah, I've got taken it off. So let's come back to. So they used all this 3-year character assassination against me in the paperwork. You know, I'm a threat, I'm dangerous, you know, this type of stuff, saying that I'm going to abuse my son in the future, you know, that, what's it called, future emotional or physical harm, and these types of things.
Yeah. What the family court always use.
Well, yes. personally, Leonardo, to me it looks as if they've been character assassinating you and stole your child killed from you. So therefore, your time will be taken up trying to get your child back, so you couldn't continue with your making the awareness to the people of what's going on with the vaccinations.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, yeah, all of it.
And it also sounds like there could be some sort of intervention there, possibly by, I mean, I don't know, I'm just speculating here, but you reckon there'd be some sort of intervention by big pharmaceutical companies that are trying to, you know, destroy you and destroy your lives and things like that? I don't know.
But I believe so. I believe so.
It's just become compulsory for your kids to have their injections.
I don't know. Yeah.
It's now compulsory for kids to have their injections.
Yeah, or you get a fine. Pay the fine and tell them to stick their injections up their arses.
Exactly.
I do know that you can get them done separate, but it's very expensive.
When you, Katie, when you say it's now compulsory, is that in the UK? Yeah,
yeah, that's in the UK.
I do know in the US what it was. Some parents actually refused. It's on the internet, and they were literally held at gunpoint.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
And that's the truth. That
incredible.
Yeah, there was one guy in the US had 7 children taken because of MMS as well. They went in his house to find the MMS, and they took his children as well.
It definitely sounds like there's some intervention going on between different agencies, like pharmaceutical companies, maybe, that have a vested interest in shutting you down.
Yeah, if I can give some advice to you guys, and that is, if you, this is what I've come to learn. This is afterwards. I was starting to hit the mainstream. That's my opinion. Is that I'm starting to hit the mainstream. I was starting to hit the masses, the cattle that are owned by the pharmaceutical industry, the masses. They are owned, and I probably was starting to touch in their lives, into their minds. Basically, if you've got anything, just do it locally. Don't try to push it so it's public massively, and do it work. Like MMS can travel itself word of mouth. Once you experience a detox with it, it's the most incredible experience of your life. You've been living at this state of health for so many years, and suddenly it jumps up a massive step. It's like a light bulb. It's an awakening. It's trying to be poetic or something with words, but it's incredible. And so what I was probably doing was I was touching on the masses, those people that are owned by the industry. You know, you don't go near them. You just help those who are like you. You know, the awake people. You know,
sort of things that go on in society, Leonardo, especially when it comes to cancer and things like that, which is massive business for the big pharmaceutical companies with the chemotherapy and stuff like that. And they use government, they lobby government to keep a thing called the Cancer Act in place. Heard of the Cancer Act 1939? It basically
stops you from getting a cure.
You're not allowed to use the word cure in your advertisements. You're not allowed to advertise a cure. And the word cure means to preserve legally. Preserve as in dead meat. The word treatment means, in legal terms, means to look after. So they preserve and look after cancer.
Yep.
That sounds terrible, doesn't it? That sounds
preserve. You know what that is? Preserve meat, dead meat.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, preserving the actual illness is what's going on.
Disease management service. That's what the NHS is.
Exactly. That's what they do, is they manage and maintain illness so that they can continue to sell you lifelong products and keep a customer in place rather than letting them get better and healthy.
Well, they also make off the customer as well.
Sorry, Katie?
They make off the customer as well, because the chemotherapy costs, the treatment costs, and then going through everything else and the emotional trauma and that. You fork out loads, then your family start trying to raise money for you and to try and raise for different. And, you know, the more people who've got cancer, the more people who are going to start pushing money into the government to create a cure for it.
And chemotherapy has only got a 3% success rate, so that means 97%. Goodbye.
Exactly.
And if you are lucky enough to be one of the 3% that survives chemotherapy, there's also an increased chance of a recurrence of cancer coming back.
I had non-Hodgkin's T-cell lymphoma, and the consultant told me I had to have chemotherapy. And I said, I'm not having chemotherapy. And she said to me, well, you've only got 3 to 5 years left to live. And I looked at my watch and I said, well, you better get a move on then, haven't you? And I cured myself.
Well done.
When you put radioactive particles in your body, it creates heavy metals. Now, if you don't die from the cancer, what you're highly likely to get is Alzheimer's and dementia. That is heavy metal poisoning.
Yeah.
Heavy metal poisoning is dementia and Alzheimer's. And I had a friend who was living in Gambia, and she had a guy with dementia or Alzheimer's, and she says she healed him using MMS in the Gambia of Alzheimer's.
So I've heard that there's a thing called chelation as well, which is a removal of heavy metals from the body using different things like what's that plant?
Diatomaceous earth.
That's a natural one. Yeah, that's good stuff.
That's one of them. And there's another thing I can't remember what it's called.
EDTA or something. EDTA, something like that.
I can't remember what the name of it is now. But there's a couple of those things. But anyway, you can use different things to chelate, which means to remove the metal particles out of your body. Apparently, it's quite a long process to get.
Can I come back to mine a bit? Because I've got something that's my son was born in a birth pool in our flat in Bugle Street, Southampton, which is 2 or 3 doors up from the registry office. Our doula took professional photographs, beautiful professional photographs, and we filmed the birth as well. And Yolanda's parents watched via Skype. I have, from the registry office in Southampton, 3 or 4 doors up from my old house, which I've lost since, I have a letter where it's got the emblem, the 2 lions on it and stuff. It's proper. It's autographed with signed with a calligraphy pen, an ink pen. You know how they do it, and it states Santiago was born in the Princess Anne Hospital. I also have court papers that state my son was born in the Princess Anne Hospital. Now, you make of that what you will. You know what that means, don't you?
This just goes to show the extent to the fix-up that they're doing on you and loads and loads and loads of other people in this country.
Oh, yes. I'm not the only one.
World.
That seems like a whole series of incredible lies going on then. So he was born at home, and yet they're saying he was born in Princess Anne Hospital, yeah?
Yeah.
Complete and utter fabrication.
Yeah.
And I have
That's because they want the next generation to be ignorant of the fact that children can be born anywhere other than in a hospital.
Yes.
There's also another thing about this. If he's born in a hospital, he's born in a ward. That makes you a ward of the state. Yeah. So it's a massive con by the sounds of it. You really have our sympathies, Leonardo. What you've been doing is absolutely awful. What you've struggled with and what you've had to go through. And
Yolanda has been transforming her suffering. She's been sewing and making things and inspiring women with her messages, and she's making all these items, and that's on her website, yolandaminino.com, if you want to check them out. What's going on, what she gets is a lot of messages from women who suffered 20, 30 years ago, who then come to understand and realize what they went through is what Yolanda's going through is what they went through. So that now they know, and now these people are speaking up about what happened within Portugal 20, 30 years ago. But what we've come to, you have to understand the enemy, the evil. is they used us to publicise their evil. They know what they're doing, because now it's all over in Portugal. It's on the soaps. It's in the TV. It's on soaps now, like EastEnders. It's on the soaps. It's just part. So what they do is they tell the truth to everyone, but most people, they just think it's all like TV, like a soap.
Yeah.
They just don't.
They
Can't put two and two together.
They're sort of trivialising it then. In a way.
Yeah, and not only has it been going on absolutely decades upon decades, the ferocity of it's been building and building. They're taking more and more children.
Yeah. One day we will be looking into the eyes of evil, I'm sure. Like, we will be looking, as we walk around the street, it will be, it'd be so bad.
We're already looking in the eyes of evil. It's all around us. It's so far up people's noses, they can't see it.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully, the day I'm looking in the eyes of evil, it'll be as I slip a noose over the neck and kick the stool.
Yes.
Smarty. I think there's a lot of us that would like to do that with certain public representatives, if you like to call them that. But on
the town I come from, we still got a stock in the town centre. I keep saying to people they should be moved outside the town hall and we should start processing them one at a time.
Well, we could get to the stage where we end up throwing rotten tomatoes at them, but leave them in the can when you do it.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your story, Leonardo.
Thank you for listening.
I think this is going to have some impact. I'd like to get on to Katie now, if we could. Katie, are you there, Katie?
No, I disappeared.
I wonder if you'd like to tell us your story about what's happened with your children and, the basic fundamentals of everything that's gone on.
She's still looking for the rules so she can break them all.
I'm just thinking that. Shut up. God, you're a right snitch. Well, basically, my son was taken the first time in March 2016, so that'll be the 11th of March 2016 he was first taken. Fought through a massive battle of court. They tried accusing me of hurting him. When I didn't hurt him, I had proof that I didn't hurt him, and you could tell by the way my son was with me that I didn't hurt him. Never had been, never nothing.
Can I just ask, was your son taken shortly after birth, or was he?
No, my son was 2 years old when he was taken.
Almost 2 years old.
Yeah, he got restraint from a nursery worker. So the nursery manager phoned social services saying that it was me. Because bearing in mind, I hadn't even got my son home. I'd picked him up with a big jacket on. So I hadn't seen the marks on his arms. They knew about him when they phoned social services. I didn't.
Right.
So to cover their back, they phoned social services on me. Lo and behold, my son's blonde-haired, blue-eyed, and he's well-behaved, and he's well-dressed and well-mannered. Fucking hell, he was learning 2 languages. His first language was German. He's not even a British citizen, he's a German citizen.
Right. So, how many children have you got in total, Katie?
I've got 2. When my son was first taken, I only had my son. But I ended up getting him back in August because the doctor who originally saw him, who accused me of leaving the marks on his arms, got the witness statement which proved that it wasn't me. It was actually the nursery worker, which I had said at the beginning. So I got him back in August. Shortly after they found out I was pregnant. Shortly after that, my partner got a letter saying that a case that had been dismissed 5 years ago was being brought back up at the end of February, beginning of March.
Huh?
Yeah. My baby was due at the end of March as well. My son's dad found out that he'd been put in prison, and a week after it had happened, the day after, he picked my son up for the weekend. Wasn't from my choice. Social services had an order on me saying that he had to have him every other weekend. So he picked him up on the Friday, turned around to social worker after he'd picked him up and said that I did him. I wasn't even around at that morning. I dropped my son off at my nan's and I went to the hospital appointment because I was due to give birth any day. That was the third time that week I was in the hospital, and the hospital isn't exactly next door to me. So social services and my son's dad ended up working together to make me look like a dick and to coach my son and everything. Didn't see my son from the 11th of... I didn't see my son from the 10th of March through till 21st of July.
Right.
They wouldn't let me see him, wouldn't let me speak to him, nothing. They had no communication with him. Bear in mind, he'd never been away from me this long before. Ever.
So you've got 2 children. You've got a boy and a girl, yeah?
Yep.
And is the boy the oldest child?
Yeah, my son's the eldest. He's now 5.
So when you had your daughter, have they taken your daughter as well, or have you got your daughter living with you?
Well, my daughter was taken, but she wasn't taken at birth. My daughter was actually born exactly a week to the day after my son was taken a week later. I managed to keep hold of her for 7 months before they got me, and the only reason they got her off me is because my son had a 3-day finding of fact hearing, and normally I took my daughter with me, or I had someone to watch her outside the court, so I was literally on the other side of the door. And for the 3-day finding of fact hearing, the DISC family support worker who worked with social services didn't show up, apparently never organised to show up, when I know for a fucking fact she did, because otherwise I'd have organised something else. So they tried to put my daughter in foster care then for the 3-day finding of fact hearing. Managed to get my grand stuck after her, but my grand's got carpal tunnel, so she can't hold my daughter constantly. So my daughter goes in a walker a lot of the time at my grand's, not the entire time. And my cousin was there to help out as well, so she was completely safe. But my grand's got a nice soft floor that my daughter just glides on. So she loves it. But because she bears on one side, bear in mind she was 7 months old, she was big and she was advancing for her age. But she wasn't walking anything like that, but she bared on one side, so she got a little mark from the bridge of the baby walker, the rim. So she got a little mark on the inside of her thigh, but you could tell it was from the walker. It lined up perfectly. You could see it. It'd take an idiot not to see it. I even took pictures and showed it to my GP and other doctors, and they even all said that it's from the fucking walker.
And they used that as an excuse to take your daughter, did they?
Yeah, the day after, the last day of the finding of fact hearing, even though for the other 3 days I was with them, and the day after, I told the health visitor that she had a mark there because I wanted to know if it was common for babies to get bruises from walkers. And all of a sudden, I've been abusing her. How the fuck have I been abusing her?
Sounds like a bad setup to me.
It is. They had no evidence of nothing because I've never done anything to the kids. The kids had everything they could ever want. They weren't spoiled, because obviously I can't spoil them, but everything they ever needed, they had, and they were well treated, and they were well mannered, and they were loved. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to take my own arm or anything, but fucking hell, my son wouldn't go to nursery until he do with the hallway. He ain't fucking got that from me. But at the minute, they've put my daughter. They took my daughter as well. Fought through court, lost in court, obviously, because it's fucking corrupt as fuck. And now he's supposed to prove he didn't do something that doesn't exist. But I've actually had a letter on Halloween from court saying that the adopters have applied to court to adopt my daughter officially, and that's on the 19th of December. So I'm trying to get paperwork together and get shit organised. But I actually got a call.
Which court's that in?
Manchester.
Manchester Crown or Manchester Magistrates?
Manchester Civil.
It's all in one building, isn't it? Yeah, I remember now. Carry on.
Manchester Civil Justice Centre. It's next to Crown. But yeah, they've been dangling my son over my head and basically dangling my son in front of me so that they could adopt my daughter without issue. Because my son's not an English citizen, he's a German citizen, and he knows where he comes from. Social services have put him with his biological dad, and I know it sounds good, and in any other circumstances it'd be great, but his dad's got a 26-page long criminal record. Couldn't give a shit about him until he was 2.5 years old when social services got involved and he saw an opportunity to work me. He's never looked after me son. His family does it. I've seen my son with bald patches on his head, scratches down his throat, bruises all over him. My son's shut down completely since he's been there because he can't talk to anyone. They won't let me see him or speak to him or he won't even talk to him about me. And he's never even been in his life before any of this. He keeps fobbing him off on everyone else, but he just doesn't want me to have him. Because if they give me my son back, or my son says he wants to come back, they've got no reason to hold my daughter. Because my daughter's entire case is based on my son's. Because my daughter didn't have a case, they piggybacked it onto his. So if my son turns around and says he wants to come home, or for some reason has to come back to me, they can't adopt my daughter. That's it. Their entire case is fucked.
I mean, it is so strange that your son's case was closed until you was about to give birth to your daughter.
Exactly.
You know, how can it make sense that they're using your son?
It gets worse than that, though. It gets worse than that because the day they kidnapped him was one day before social services had to sign off from us. And the next day was a Saturday. So that if they didn't do it then, they'd never have a choice. They'd never have the chance again because it would have been exactly a year and they had to sign off on the 11th. So they kidnapped him on the 10th.
It's not unbelievable because I can know what's going on.
They had to break me down bit by bit because me and my partner, we got my son back the first time because we didn't do anything wrong and we fought together and kept each other going. So they had to get rid of him, which broke me down, so they could get rid of my son a week before I give birth and then go after my daughter. But what they weren't expecting was me to... Yeah, they put my partner in prison so that he wouldn't be here to help me get him out. Because when he was out, my son got taken the first time. Me and him got my son back together. And it was only a day after my son's biological father found out that he'd been put in prison. And then he gets kidnapped. The day after he gets told by social services, he had a meeting with social services. He doesn't live close to us. He lives 4.5 hours away from social services up here. They had a pre-meeting over the phone the day before they kidnapped him.
It just shows that the system's rigged for taking the children no matter what, and they will break partners up, they will do whatever they want to be able to get their methods through to take the child away.
I agree.
True.
They just steal your voice. They steal your kids' voices and make kids feel like it's their fault. I mean, kids nowadays, I'm sorry, but they've got no respect for anything. They don't even have respect for themselves.
I mean,
and why is that? Is that because families are being broken down constantly, overly broken down for no reason? So now kids are lashing out because of social services and now they've been abandoned.
There is a reason for it, Katie. There is a reason for it, believe you me. It's called the Frankfurt School of Subversion Technique. How to destroy a nation from within. And it's
break up the family unit.
Breaking up the family unit. Yeah, that's the Frankfurt School of Subversion Technique. Because if you can break down the family unit, society is more vulnerable. It can be attacked easier. And, this is the sort of stuff that goes on.
Break down the family unit. There is.
Sorry, Marty.
Yeah.
I said, if you break down the family unit, that is it. There is no society.
No. The family is the society.
No, because society as a whole is a family anyway. Because at the end of the day, a family is who looks out for each other and protects each other and does what they think's right. If you go to any person in the street, they're doing what they think's right, and they'll look after the family and the friends and care for them. Just because someone looked after someone and cares for him doesn't mean they're going to be feeding him with a golden spoon. I mean, I'm there for my brother, but fucking hell, I'm not exactly close to him, and I wouldn't be able to get into him in a heartbeat. But I'm there for him, and I care for him, and I love him. It's society. At the end of the day, a society as a whole, if you take out the fucking twats, then everyone's a family.
Well, this is what society does, Katie. They they shut down anything that's moral and decent, destroy that, and put in things in its place like 24-hour drinking and all sorts of nonsense. They bog down teachers with, copious amount head teachers in schools with copious amounts of paperwork, and so that they can't concentrate on decent educating the children, which is what they should be doing.
And bringing child sexualisation curriculums early in school.
That's right. Yeah, they do all sorts of corrupt stuff like this to undermine the sort of structure and fabric of society.
You know that teachers and people that work in children's kind of areas, they're now being pressured if they don't report something that they can get in trouble for not reporting something. So they have a state of fear because they will report anything from a scratch and a mark on the face because they personally are frightened of getting in trouble because that's what
I did that. I documented every time my son fell over or I got a mark on him. I documented it all. I've still got them. I got accident report cards because fucking hell, if a toddler doesn't fall over every 2 seconds, they're not a toddler.
But they will use anything, won't they? They will use anything.
What you were saying there, Leonardo, is basically they brought in the situation where you've got the sheep policing the sheep.
Yes.
You know what I mean, rather than the sheepdogs policing the sheep, it's the sheep policing the sheep, getting everybody to report on each other.
And they will bring in agent provocateurs to provoke you into some kind of reaction so they can then use that reaction against you.
Yeah, problem, reaction, solution, Hegelian dialectic.
Hegelian dialectic.
There was a bit. It's not sheep leading sheep. It's wolves in sheep's clothing following sheep, or leading sheep. It's the wolves in the sheep clothing leading them that you got to be worried about.
There was a young girl at the contact centre. She was constantly smiling. She had a constant smile. And looking back, I believe that she was an agent provocateur. She was, because we were intelligent. We were asking questions. We must have stood out. We were not like everyone else, I suppose. And this girl, she just stood right. She just gave me the impression that she was there to extract or find out things about us. She was all lovely, nice and friendly to us, right in the middle of this contact centre and on the bus when we come out. And we saw her on the
I'm one of them weird people that if I'm at a contact centre, I sit there quietly, but I've always got a smile on my face because there's kids around. I don't want kids to see. I don't want to ruin a kid's day by being dark and dreary.
Yeah,
but I also not in the mood to be talking to anyone else. So I may sit there with a smile, but not say anything. But I'm also really friendly at contact centres as well with everyone. I do interact with them sometimes, but other times I'm just not in the mood.
Yeah, it's true when you're going in that place.
Yeah, but I mean, the tyranny and the velvet glove is one of their favourite tactics.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there are creeps out there that'll sell parents out and make shit up about parents. Scouse Megaphone Man's one of them. Him and his wife are.
Oh yeah, we've seen all that.
Yeah, so there are people out there, but it's learning, it's trusting your own instinct and making your own mind up for yourself. I found it a lot easier to pick out the wrong uns from the right uns by just getting to know people myself.
Yeah,
making my own mind up.
Instinct.
Exactly. It's one of the things I say.
your instinct rises, doesn't it? You get, once you've looked into the eyes of evil, your instinct is like more powerful than it was before.
Well, for me, it wasn't even that. It's just a case of when I was going through the whole case with court, my instincts were telling me to do one thing, but social services were telling me if I did that, I'd get arrested, this, that, and the other, and I'd get beaten down. So I started ignoring my instincts, but my instincts were clear enough to say, protect your kids by doing this, that, and the other. Do this, do that, go here, go there, don't do this, don't talk to them. And I was ignoring all of them. But since I've realised that I was purposely ignoring them, I started listening to my instincts. Tell you what, things have been a lot better. I've been a lot more positive, and I'm getting back into the battle, and fucking ain't giving up on my kids. No way. I've actually been putting posters up about her in the shops and everything.
Well, I think people definitely need to wake up to what's going on in society, because, you know, we've got to the point in society where the sort of the sheep of the humans are out sheeping the sheep. And this has all gone on far too long, all this sort of stuff. We need to get back to a sensible sort of society where the state isn't so big as it is. And we need to get back to, you know, proper people having their property rights, including, you know, owning their own children, which is, I know it sounds wrong, doesn't it? But I mean, your children are your children, aren't they? They're your own flesh and blood, and they belong with the parent. And well, get back to some sort of sensible system, because the state can't be trusted. The state can't be trusted.
No,
really, with people's children.
Yeah, the main child abuse is actually done by the government agents.
Time to be more like a porcupine and less like a sheep.
Yeah, exactly. Well said, Marty.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear what you're having to endure, both of you and Leonardo. I just can't think of how I'd feel under those circumstances. But I can see what's happened to other people. It makes my blood boil.
I mean, people need to start by just realising that losing your kids and going through this whole process with social services and the actual corruption. It's not a joke, and it's not anything else. It's actual corruption. It's actual lies and perjury in court. And they make you feel like you're insignificant when they ask you, are you calling the social worker a liar? A lot of times saying, well, you know, I'm not exactly saying them personally are a liar. I'm saying that's not true. And it just it creates an entirely new emotion that until you've been through it, the whole experience, and you undertake that emotion, you've never experienced anything before in your life, and you're never going to experience it again. You'll come close to it. But it's like the first time you cry with laughter. You know, when you watch the same video that made you cry with laughter the first time, it's not going to make you cry with laughter again. It'll make you laugh, but it might not make you cry. You know what I mean? It is an entirely new emotion, and that's where people have to start their understanding from. Is how would you be able to cope with that?
I think what really annoys me about the state and how it works is it's like that lyric by the Pink Floyd, one of the Pink Floyd tracks, where it says, keep your feelings off the street.
Yeah.
We live in a society where, you know, they're trying to shut down feelings. There's nothing wrong with feelings. There's nothing wrong with emotions. It's what makes us human, for crying out loud, you know. And they want to sort of shut that down, and then come along and use your knee-jerk emotional responses and reactions as a sort of tool, as a weapon against you, to say you're not a fit parent because you've got an emotional.
Yeah, well, that's when they bring in the DSM, isn't it? The Diagnostic Statistic Manuals. so they can levy some kind of mental illness upon you, and then they can take the child away from you because a future emotional harm is one of their umbrella phrases they use.
Yeah, pre-crime. In other words, a crime that hasn't even existed, that they're predicting will happen in the future.
Like the mental illness of healthy eating.
Sorry, Marty. What were you going to say, Marty?
If you go on YouTube, and the truth, it's about an hour long. That talks all about the DSM and how they make it up as they go along.
I didn't hear all of what you said. Then you sort of broke up a bit, Marty.
Yeah, we actually covered the DSM. If you want to put in Axiom Flux, a tyrant's tool, you can see us covering the DSMs from the conception. Now they've built up all the different stupid conditions, which is all totally done on consensus. And basically, it was those that shouted the loudest got their thing in the DSM.
I was just going to say, Paul, like the mental illness of healthy eating. If you like to eat healthy, then that's considered a mental illness.
Well, it's a good job I like me fucking meat then, innit? Fucking rabbit food.
I've got a good tip.
It's not that. Guys. It's not just that. Anyone who doesn't fall in one of those pages, they've even got a page at the end for anyone who hasn't got a mental illness.
Exactly.
Apparently, I have multiple personality disorders, which I've never had a week. Apparently, a week before, I had the court psychology assessment. I didn't have any personality disorders. Met the court psychologist. Apparently, got personality disorder. 3 weeks later, I went back to the original one. Got another one. Don't have a personality disorder. So apparently, for 3 weeks, I had a friend with me. But shh, don't tell anyone else you heard that.
Well, your friend
psychologists make shit up. They just copy and paste.
It's social engineering.
Katie, if you have your child taken away, anyone has a child taken away, they have certain effects and symptoms and what have you, and emotional effects. They've then gone along and called those symptoms and the things, what is it called? You said personality disorder.
Oh yeah, that was only through court. I mean, I've been back to psychology.
Manufactured. So anybody who's had their child stolen will go through those symptoms. They've then gone ahead and called it a mental illness. So now they can say, when you have had your kid, you've got a mental illness, and then they can take your child because you've got a mental illness, even though anybody who's had their child taken will have the same symptoms.
Yeah.
You see the insanity of these people. They are truly evil.
I don't understand it, but with mine it was a bit more difficult because when I was pregnant with my son, my late fiance was killed in front of me. So I've had PTSD since I was 20 weeks pregnant with my son. So about halfway through my pregnancy, I've had PTSD. Always lived with it, always suffered with it since then. But it's not exactly suffered. I get nightmares and I get insomnia every now and again now. But I've always had it, so I've always been all right with it. And when I went back after the court psychologist and got retested again, all of a sudden my PTSD isn't showing up, but I've got reactive depression. My anxiety is flaring up a bit, but my panic's all right, even though I thought my panic could be the worst one. But they've never been able to subcategorize me as mental illness because I've had depression, anxiety, panic, and PTSD. But because I've always had it managed, and they've always refused to put me on any medication whatsoever for it, they've never done anything about it, and social didn't like it. So they refused the psychologist that made psychology I got discharged from psychology, but the court refused to accept any of the paperwork or send out any orders, even though they said that they'd do a statement saying that I had none of the following of what they said in the psychology report. Because they've seen me for years.
Yeah. They're using the human's natural mental conditions against you, basically.
Yeah.
I've got a tip for you guys, everyone here. depression and anxiety, you can remove it by doing. I'll read out what I was taught. Depression is caused. Well, it's understandable when they take your child that it causes depression, but you take L-tryptophan. If you have a depression attack, it's only because you have low blood sugar. Take a half teaspoon of sugar in a glass of warm water and drink it in 20 seconds. You'll be normal. Sugar activates your L-tryptophan vitamin in your brain, and it's like morphine to your brain and will make the depression disappear. Also, correct mathematical calculations in your head removes depression and negativity in 5 seconds. So what you do is you carry around multiplication tables or trigonometry, and anytime you feel depressed or negative, you start doing correct mathematical calculations. So what you're doing is you're engaging the other side of your brain, from the emotional side to the logic side.
Yeah, and the structured side.
So try it out. I did it on a journalist who was interviewed. She started crying with our story, and she started laughing after I got her to do it. And I've been using that ever since they took my son to get me through, because I suffered depression for 6 years. So it's basically correct mathematical calculations in your mind. Try it. It's so simple and it works.
There's also different types of depression that you also have to take into consideration. Like yours, you said that you've had it for 6 years. My depression I've had since I was 6 years old.
Yeah, clinical depression mine was.
Yeah, I had depression since my grandma died from cancer, and when I saw her, she didn't look like my grandma, and I refused to say bye to it. It haunts me since. But when my depression spurts, because obviously I've got both sides. I've got the adult depression, and I've had that depression from that young childhood memory. So I can tell the difference with mine. If it's my childhood memory one, the one that's deep rooted, it'll be just from a memory being triggered. Sometimes it'll be from the kids. Sometimes it'll be from past memories or good times or bad times. But that can be what spurts off my depression. With my other one, it can be getting in a low mood, not wanting to get up, not wanting to do anything, feeling drowsy. And I reckon that'd work with that one.
Yeah, I'm not very good at maths.
The other one, it might be a bit more complicated.
I'm not very good at maths, so I just literally do 1 + 1 is 2, 2 + 2 is 4, 4 + 4 is 8, and I just do that.
Oh, good, because
I just do simple ones, but they have to be correct, because whatever chemicals are produced with depression, it will stop once you go to the other side of the brain. So just try it out.
I will do. I'm just being cautious as well, because my memory's not exactly the best at the minute.
Yeah.
And I lose track in a sentence and then get upset with myself and angry with myself and frustrated, and that set it off.
That's because you are in emotional turmoil with what they're doing to you.
I know.
It's tryptophan's that amino acid, isn't it?
Yes, amino acids.
Yeah, that's right. And also there's a thing called serotonin. If you can rate serotonin levels, that's supposed to briefly take you out of a state of depression. Apparently bananas are very good for raising your serotonin, and probably contains tryptophan as well.
I'm going to tell you my little trick for my coping strategy, and I do not look like it. I do not look like the sort of person that likes it, but I do it because it helps, and I do it with my kids. I did do it with my kids as well. But yoga.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm cautious about what I take. I don't like taking medication. I don't like taking tablets. I don't like flavors I'm not used to. I'm a very fussy eater and fussy drinker and everything. If I don't know it, I don't like it. I won't take it. So for me, I got into yoga, and I only tried it out because someone else suggested it, and I thought, you know what? I can't say I don't like it if I ain't gonna try it.
Apparently, 3 of the best boosters for serotonin in the brain is a banana, or chocolate, or sex.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the reason why I was mentioning yoga is because there's different types of yoga. It's not like what you see on TV. There's different types of I do a power yoga, and fucking hell, it's better than going to the gym, and I get faster results as well than going to the gym. But then if I'm in a tired, low mood, then I'll do a different one that doesn't involve me doing too much and more sitting round and doing stuff like stretches.
Yeah, all animals. You watch animals; they all do stretches or yoga. So we, you see birds and cats and dogs. They all do it, don't they? All do their stretches every morning.
Oh yeah, well I've got a husky and I've had near enough every reptile you can probably name.
My dog stretches like a cat.
And my dog prances like a deer. I'm not joking. When she jumps and prances onto the sofa, she does it like a deer. So delicately as well.
Oh, yeah.
Is she a talking one? Does she talk? You know what I mean? The huskies are quite vocal.
She'll let you know if she wants your attention. She sleeps directly underneath me in bed. She could sleep on the bed or anywhere else under the bed or anywhere else in the room, and she sleeps directly under fucking neath me. I don't mind it though, as long as she doesn't come and sit on me, it's fine. Why is everyone going quiet?
No, I'm here. Okay, guys, we've been 2.5 hours now. It's gone so fast and so much to speak about. I've just put a little message in the side, I don't know if you read it. We're going to return to this topic later in the season because it's just impossible to fit it all in. But what I would like to ask you all, Katie, Brian and Leonardo, is for people who may be already going through this, that are listening in, or for people who are even, soon to be going through it, God forbid that is the case, but what gave you the most support? I know we've just been talking about, counting, things like that, but what really gave you the most support throughout the whole experience? Because I found that there's just far too much to take in all at once. Not one individual can take on the system. It's just too impossible. At that moment in time, with the circumstances and situations, it just cannot be done. So what I'd like to see is for something to develop where people can get together and offer this support. And maybe you guys have already come across certain websites or groups on Facebook. So if you have, I'd like you to use this moment to just mention that. So for the listeners that are listening in now, can grab a pen and maybe write some of these websites down.
Well, the one I work with is Families Destroyed by the State, and I can link you through to White Pen Dragons and all the other ones as well through there.
I know the White Pen Dragons, yeah, very good.
Because I can link everyone through from there. Anyone who's on the Families Destroyed by the State page, there's regular posts shared there and from there and everything as well. One thing that's kept me going, and I've said this to a friend of mine as well, who's been going through a hard time since the judge signed off on his kids being adopted.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just because I'm not strong enough sometimes to fight. Not saying every time, but sometimes. I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for my kids and my future grandkids. Because now my kids are in the system, they're going to be targets when their parents. And then as soon as they become parents, my grandkids are going to get taken from them.
Yeah.
And that's what needs to stop before it even happens. Before them beautiful babies are born and that generation comes forward, before this planet gets fucked up even more than it already is, something needs to happen now. Because they're the reason we're doing this. We're doing this for our kids and our future grandkids. And that's what everyone needs to keep in their mind when they're focused and not doing it on their own. Name a situation. Go as far out imaginatively. And I bet you someone would have gone through a story similar to it. Because some people think that what we go through is beyond ridiculous. That it's a joke, that it's fictional. And it's not. It's the truth. It's what's happened to us through social services and the family courts and the government.
They say, what have you done? What have you done? Instead of thinking anything else. They say, what have you done? Why did they take you? That's an uphill thing.
Social services for fun.
I
Do you not
think
think
we
it
should
was
have a
just to get
one-day
the
purge.
SS out there?
I think we should have a government purge.
Purge, yeah. Purge.
I'd be up for that. I'd have some fucking fun with that.
Yeah.
I think we should have a bloody revolution.
Oh no!
don't
Imagine
think
how
it's gonna be
much fun
bloodless,
you could
that's
have
for
with a
sure.
purge.
And that kills that conversation there.
Well, we need a revolution of common sense, not common purpose.
Yes.
I'll mention a website that I learned a lot from. That was forced-adoption.com.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of information on there. On Facebook, join the social medias. I connect with. If I see a friend suggestion with somebody, I'll just add them so that we're all connected. So I connect with anyone who's had their children stolen because they can understand where you are, what you are. So I connect with everyone. I've joined many groups, so publicising. That's what I've done. What we've done is publicising everything, making videos. That's just our way. Some people say you shouldn't do that, and some people you know, I don't know. This is what we've done. We've come to do this. We've publicised everything. You know, we haven't got our son back, so we haven't got our kid back yet. So,
I mean, what people need to remember as well is there's no right or wrong way to do it. Some people protest, some people
go on roofs,
advertise, some people donate, some people organise events. You know, everything is right. There's no wrong way about it.
Yes.
It's just everyone doing it. That's it. You come forward, donate, or I don't know, fucking. I mean, we've got a guy who works with homeless as well. So it's not just social services and that side of it that we deal with. We deal with other sides of it as well.
Tell you what, I think part of the big problem is, guys, is privatisation of these industries, these different sectors. Because once you monetize something and you start getting quota requirements to get different profits and things like that, I think I can quite happily point the dirty end of the stick at privatisation, because when there wasn't all this monetary interest, when things were nationalised, I don't think we had half the problems that we got now.
They remove humanity. It removes humanity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It isn't just money that is the root to all evil. It's the love of money that's the root to all evil.
Agreed.
Totally.
I've got just one more point of advice for anyone who's listening outside here. We were approached by various people that claimed to be able to bring children back. They claim to have all these methods, the Haynes. The Haynes.
Mr.
Anyway,
sorry,
yes,
yes. Well,
they came to us they claimed that.
Can I just say something? We need to have a conversation in private about Mr. Tim Haynes. Because
yes, I've experienced it. But anyway, I won't take it. I won't say it directly about him. There who claim to have methods and ways of getting children back.
Yep.
And all we did was ask them, how many children have you got returned? As soon as we asked them questions, they got threatened and started to criticize us. I'm talking about Yolanda and I, and they started making posts about us, saying that we put a fundraiser to help us out, and people donated to us, and they made pictures of us lying down in a hotel on a beach because we just simply questioned them, and that's what. So that's my advice to you guys, to anyone else going through this, is if anyone comes to you making these claims and saying they can do this and that, just ask them questions. How many children have you had return? Because what I came to realise is that it was their egos. They just wanted their egos tweaked. They just wanted to have that ego. Yeah. These people,
success rate is.
So that's my piece of advice. Sorry if I got angry there, because these people were horrid. They were horrible people. Haynes.
Yeah. Tell you a few story about Mr. Tim Haynes.
It's disgusting. Lawyers.
And I totally agree with you. And it's also the MP that I was on about earlier on who was involved with Tim Haynes.
Yes, I hear this. I hear the story. So we just did things our way.
Can I ask? Is that Haynes guy? Was that somebody who was offering a service for payment of any kind?
Yes.
Yeah.
We never got to that point. We never got to the point of asking for payment because we outed him very quickly. We outed all these people very quickly. We worked out what they are, who they are, what they're trying to do. So we never got any further with them because we just knew what they were doing.
I'm always very sceptical where any money's involved in anything. My advice would be, if you're getting free help from somebody where there's no monetary interest, I would say that is much more trustworthy than anybody that's making a profit out of anything. But that's just me.
Thank you very much for having me on. Thank you very much. I'm sorry if it got a bit
Leonardo,
emotional. It was a bit...
No, not at all. Thank you as well, Katie and Brian and all the other guests.
Katie.
Sorry to cut this short. You know, I'd love to let this go on for until as long as need be, but
oh no, I'm not. I need bed.
With topics like this, it's very difficult to get people even to just stick around just to listen in. So let's just...
It is, but it's out there, and with everyone sharing it and everyone following it, and eventually it'll get there. Even if it takes another couple of weeks for it to get to even more people than it does tonight, it'll still get there.
Yeah. Well, it's been 100 years since... No, you're welcome. It's been 100 years since the end of First World War.
Yeah.
I'd like to see an end to this war with children. Most definitely.
Yes.
Let's hope we don't have to wait 100 years. Thanks for coming on, guys. And you're more than welcome to stick around on the after talk. And for anybody who's listening in, we'll be back next Sunday. Not too sure with a topic, but do stick around for that. Cheers, Geoff, Marty, Jouster, Paul.
Cheers,
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
And best wishes to all our guests. I hope they all get their children back with any luck.
Either that or we'll die trying.
We get some justice in this world for you.
Yeah, justice, not just is.
Indeed.
Rome cometh.